Coco Gauff said something about Alex Eala that surprised the entire tennis world. After retiring from their match at Indian Wells and watching Eala take control of the tournament, Gauff sat down with reporters and made an honest admission, something that most top players rarely say publicly about someone ranked below them. Gauff openly stated that Alex Eala is the best player at Indian Wells under these conditions. It was an unexpected level of praise, especially coming from one of the top players in the sport. Now the big question is whether Eala can take that momentum all the way and win the tournament. With tough competition still ahead, many fans are wondering if she can continue this impressive run or if the challenge will become too difficult from here. So what do you think? Can Eala win the entire tournament, or is the remaining competition too strong? Share your prediction in the comments. Now, let's take a closer look at what happened and why Gauff's statement matters far more than just a polite post-match comment.
And did Eala win this particular encounter? Look at that subscribe number. It's just gone over 7 times in the last few minutes. For those of you just tuning in, by the way, wondering what is happening between Alex Eala and Coco Gauff, well, Eala has prevailed. She is through to play Linda Noskova in the next round. Did they play twice? Did they? Coco Gauff retired, by the way, with a right arm injury. But at the time, she was being blown off the court by Alex Eala. Alex won 8 of their 10 games. She was up 6-2, 2-love at the time of retirement.
Coco Gauff is the world number 4 and a 2-time Grand Slam champion. She is one of the most decorated active players on the WTA Tour and has spent years competing at the very top of women's tennis. Throughout her career, she has faced every type of opponent in every kind of condition and on the biggest stages the sport has to offer. When a player with that level of experience sits down in front of reporters after a match and says that another player is the best at a tournament, it is not just a casual remark. It carries real weight. Statements like that rarely come without careful thought, especially from someone who understands the competitive landscape of the sport so well. Gauff has the experience and the competitive pride to fully understand the impact of her words. That is why her comment stands out. It was not a throwaway line or a polite gesture. It was a genuine assessment from a top player who knows exactly what she was saying and why she said it.
Would you say that you were relying heavily on today coming in? What's the part of your game that you kept going back to?
Honestly, I had a similar match at French Open last year, so I brought that mindset today of just trying to, whenever you guys were cheering for Alex, I was pretending that it was my name, and I think that it, it helped me a lot. So if you can't beat them, you got to join them. So.
What Gauff said about Alex Eala after their match at Indian Wells reflected exactly that level of honest evaluation. She explained that the slow courts at Indian Wells suited Eala's style of play very well. Gauff also praised Eala's ability to adapt quickly to the conditions and highlighted how effectively she managed the challenges that came with them. According to Gauff, it was extremely difficult to hit clean winners on those courts. The rallies were longer, the points demanded more patience, and the physical demands were much higher than usual. Despite all of that, Eala seemed comfortable and in control, handling the conditions better than anyone else in the tournament. In Gauff's assessment, Eala was simply the best player in those specific conditions. Coming from a player of Gauff's experience and status, that is not a small statement. However, before diving deeper into Gauff's comments, it is important to understand the full context of the match itself, because the result alone was already one of the most striking moments at Indian Wells this year.
Chris, what was your reaction to the quotes that she put out?
Yeah, I was a bit stunned as well. Like Coco, I went and sit in the crowd. I got a ticket. It was the first time I'd had to scan a ticket to enter a tennis match in a long time.
You know, we have a suite here.
Yeah, but I
Chris.
didn't. I wanted to, I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be with the fans, Coco.
That's the difference between you and I. I was sweet life in it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was scanning it in like everyone else. So I was super excited. Coco got off to a good start. But then you started to see her making this movement that made me think that something was wrong with her back. She was kind of doing a stretch with her left arm, left wrist. But I initially thought it was a back issue. She continued to try to fight through, caught the trainer at 5-2 in the first, and then a lot of worry started to echo around the stadium. You could sense that something was up. You got to give Alex a lot of credit, though, because it is never easy. We're going to talk about it later with Lerner Tien, but never easy to play an opponent who is injured. And the way that she was able to put her head down and only focus on her side of the court, I think was a very mature thing to do.
2 weeks before Indian Wells, These same two players met at the Dubai Tennis Championships. In that match, Coco Gauff defeated Alex Eala 6-0, 6-2. It was a complete shutout. The match was not competitive at all. It was a dominant, one-sided performance where Gauff controlled every aspect of the game, and Eala simply could not find a way to respond. The scoreline was harsh, and the gap between them in that particular match was very clear. So when the Indian Wells draw placed them against each other again in the third round, most people following the tour had a simple expectation. Gauff would win again, likely by a similar margin, and Eala's run in the tournament would end there. But Eala had different plans. From the very beginning of the Indian Wells match, something looked different. On Eala's side, the intensity and aggression were noticeably higher from the opening game. At the same time, Gauff was clearly dealing with a physical issue that began affecting her performance early in the match and became more obvious as the set continued. Gauff committed 7 double faults in the first set, and her first serve percentage dropped to just 44%, an extremely low number for a player competing at the top level of professional tennis. During the match, she called for the trainer to treat her left shoulder and arm. Despite the situation on the other side of the net, Eala stayed focused. She continued to press forward, attack, and break Gauff's serve repeatedly. By the time the first set ended 6-2 in Eala's favor, the result almost felt inevitable. The second set began in a similar way. Eala held her serve and immediately broke Gauff in the opening game, putting the score at 6-2, 2-0 in her favor. The match was clearly moving in only one direction. Then Gauff walked to the net and retired. She apologized to Eala, telling her she hated having to stop the match that way. Later, during her press conference, Gauff explained the pain she had been experiencing in her arm. She described it as feeling like a firework going off inside her arm and said that her entire arm felt like it was on fire. She also mentioned that the issue might be nerve-related. That kind of description leaves little room for doubt. Gauff was genuinely in pain and made the only decision her body allowed her to make. Whenever a top player retires from a match, the natural question becomes how much credit the opponent deserves. This is exactly where Gauff's comments became so important. During her press conference, Gauff said she felt bad about retiring specifically because of how well Eala had been playing. She explained that she did not want to take anything away from Eala's performance. In fact, she said she would have preferred to finish the match and lose 6-0 rather than retire, because based on how Eala was playing, she believed Eala was going to win regardless of how the match ended. For a Grand Slam champion ranked number 4 in the world to say that about a player ranked 31st is remarkable. There is no version of that statement that does not represent a sincere and powerful endorsement of Eala's performance. Gauff was not simply being polite, she was being honest. After spending 55 minutes on the court watching Eala take control of the match from the other side of the net, she walked away with a clear conclusion. Eala was the better player that day. Gauff then went deeper into explaining why Eala had the advantage, and this is where the tactical details become interesting. She began talking about the slow conditions at Indian Wells and how the courts at this tournament make it extremely difficult to hit clean, outright winners. At Indian Wells, hitting outright winners is extremely difficult. The slow courts create longer rallies and more physically demanding points. Success in these conditions depends less on explosive, one-shot power and more on movement, positioning, patience, and the ability to sustain pressure through extended exchanges. According to Coco Gauff, Alex Eala has been the best player in the tournament under those conditions. The specific qualities Gauff highlighted in Eala's game explain why she is so effective at this event. One of them is her quickness, her ability to chase down difficult balls and recover her position quickly during long rallies. That skill becomes critical when points stretch longer and every shot has to be tracked down. Gauff also mentioned Eala's creative shot-making, including her unexpected angles and unconventional choices that disrupt opponents who are used to a more predictable style of play. Most importantly, Gauff noted that Eala adjusted to the slow conditions much faster and more completely than she herself was able to do during the match. The attention surrounding Eala's performance at Indian Wells has grown well beyond Gauff's comments. Many observers around the tennis world have started to recognize the impact she is having. Former professional player Sam Querrey even predicted that Eala could eventually become bigger than both Gauff and Aryna Sabalenka in terms of her overall profile and influence in the sport. He compared the atmosphere surrounding her matches to the excitement that followed Carlos Alcaraz during his breakthrough moments on the men's tour, the feeling that something special might happen every time she steps onto the court. The numbers support that growing excitement. Eala's first match at Indian Wells reportedly generated more than $5 million in ticket sales and set a new attendance record for the tournament. A figure like that is not usually associated with a player who is still building recognition outside her home country. It reflects the presence of a true global attraction, a player whose matches feel like events rather than ordinary contests. What makes this even more impressive is that Eala is currently ranked 31st in the world and has not yet broken into the top 20. That means there is a significant gap between her current ranking and the level of attention and performance she is generating. Results like this run at Indian Wells are rapidly closing that gap. Deep progress in a WTA 1000 tournament brings major ranking points, and each round she advances pushes her higher. If the run were to continue all the way to the title, the jump in rankings would be dramatic, and would instantly place her among the regular names mentioned when discussing the best players in the sport. Jessica Pegula has also commented on Eala's growing presence. She described the atmosphere at Eala's matches as something unique on the tour right now. Pegula noted that the crowd energy changes completely when Eala is playing. Fans from the Philippines have been traveling to tournaments around the world to support her, transforming venues into something that feels almost like a home environment. According to Pegula, it creates a powerful and memorable atmosphere, even for opponents standing on the other side of the net. That kind of international fan support is rare in tennis. Many players have strong national followings, but the Filipino support behind Eala travels across continents. Whether the tournament is in the Middle East, the United States, or Europe, the flags appear and the crowd becomes louder and more energized. It changes the entire feeling of the event, not just a single match. After her victory at Indian Wells, Eala spoke with a balanced and respectful perspective. She made it clear that she did not want the match to end the way it did and expressed genuine concern for Gauff's injury. At the net, she checked on her opponent before anything else. At the same time, she acknowledged that it was still an important moment in her career, playing on Stadium 1 at Indian Wells, competing against a top player, and advancing to the round of 16 during one of the most exciting runs of her career. Eala managed to hold both emotions at once, compassion for her opponent and pride in her own performance. She communicated both with honesty and maturity. That combination of competitive ability and personal warmth is part of what makes her such a compelling figure in the sport. She wins big matches and then speaks about her opponents with respect, her family with gratitude, and her country with pride. Remarkably, she is only 20 years old, yet she carries herself on one of the biggest stages in tennis with the composure of someone far more experienced. Her next challenge comes in the round of 16 against Linda Noskova, the world number 14. Noskova is a powerful player with solid experience and earned her place in this stage after a difficult 3-set victory. She will not be an easy opponent. However, Eala enters that match with strong momentum, the endorsement of the world number 4, the attendance record she just helped create at the tournament, and a playing style that Gauff herself described as the most effective in these conditions. In the end, Gauff's message was clear. She openly admitted that, right now, Alex Eala is the best player at Indian Wells. Based on everything that has happened over the past week, it is difficult to argue with that assessment. Gauff called her the best player in the tournament. Sam Querrey predicted she could become an even bigger star than Gauff and Sabalenka. One of her matches generated $5 million in ticket sales. And despite all of that, she is still ranked 31st in the world. Alex Eala is doing something special at this moment, and her run at Indian Wells may not be finished yet.